Hello. Hey, guys. Hey, Tony, how are you? Go ahead and undelete yourself, buddy. I mean, unmute yourself.
Hello.
There you are. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. All right, let's see here. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming on today. Tony, you're going to tell us a little bit about seller appointments, right?
Yeah, I had a good one this week.
Good. So let me just tell everybody who we are. I'm Carrie Sweetland. I'm the sales manager here at Cameron Real Estate Group. Usually Tom Cafarella is on this call, but he is actually out today. And we have Tony DeLuca on with us today. And he is one of our top agents here. Is really one of the best at converting over into listings. So he's going to share with us some of his experiences. And Javier, hello. Hazel, hi. Nice to see you guys. We got 13 people on here today. That's great. If anybody else wants to pop in or has questions, please feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to pipe you in. So how's it going? How'd your week go?
My week was very busy.
Yeah?
Yeah, very busy. Went on a few seller appointments, probably like 4 or 5.
Wow.
A lot of good potentials. I have a lot of follow-up. Was able to get another one signed this week, which with Nina actually.
Nice.
It was a combo seller appointment, so it was really nice to go out and show one of the newer agents, that you can sit down on a first face-to-face and
Right.
actually get somebody to sign. So that was a good experience. And then I just have a couple of more ones that you got to put the work in. You have to follow up. You got to make your phone calls. You got to stay on top of them. But like I tell everyone, when you go to a meeting, it's nice to get them to sign on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It does happen, and but you also have to think about, people are going to sell today. People want to sell tomorrow, next week, next month,
Right.
and eventually, when you have that combination of people, 1 month you're going to run into somebody who wanted to sell that you've been talking to for 3 months. Plus, you get the ones that want to sign today, and that's how the pipeline forms. And that's when you start to get, instead of getting that 1 or 2, now that turns into 3 and 4 a month,
Right.
because of the follow-up and the pipeline that you've created.
Good deal. Nina's actually on here. Nina, do you want to pop on as a panelist with us? I don't want to surprise her and add her in without her permission. So, Nina, if you're willing to pop on as a panelist with us and talk about that appointment that you guys went on, I think it'd be really helpful for the attendees to hear the contrast between being a newer agent and somebody as experienced as Tony is. So let us know, Nina, if you're willing to pop on. So what do you think your best appointment was this week? Tell us about it.
Well, the best one was the one I signed.
Yeah.
I think I have 1.5 signed right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you have a half of one signed? How does that work?
Because he told me he was going to sign, and then last second, he wanted to read through everything and maybe have his friend look at it, and he's like, well, you can pick it up signed. He gave me his word, and I can pick it up signed on like Thursday of this week. So I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch.
I hear ya.
So I might have had 2 signed this week, but
Gotcha.
But the one signed was with Nina in Haverhill. We walked into the appointment, and everyone's just talking to us, the mother, the father, the son, the wife, and they're like overloaded. Everyone's just talking over each other, and in their hand they pull out, it looked like a deck of cards. It was all realtor cards.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was. They were like, oh, which one are you? Who are you from? And they were just like, they must have had like 4 or 5 cards there, which in the end I think helped us, because they were, at the very, obviously the first agent who came in, they had high expectations. They were way over what they are, what the house is worth. And I think the earlier appointments kind of brought them down to earth for us, because they were still a little over anxious about, how much the house was worth and what was going on. But, once we got in, we got them settled down, got them to stop talking over each other. We just walked the house. We were making small talk. Me and Nina were laughing with them. Really connecting. They were very easygoing people. They're motivated to sell. You know, they got to let the home go. A very nice home, easy to compliment, easygoing people, which were nice to talk to. After the tour, we went outside, saw the pool house. You know, everything needs a little work. The house needs a lot of updating, but it's a good property. And if they ask for a reasonable price, you know, it's going to sell for them. And that's what we reiterated. And we just kept telling them that, you know what, and we showed them the competition because they were still a little higher than what they thought. And their neighbor is selling their house.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and it's updated and has an extra bedroom. So I showed them, I'm like, listen, your neighbor's house is for sale. This is what they're asking. You can't go over what they're asking right now because their house has been on the market for 2 weeks. It's updated with an extra bedroom. Yes, your house is a little bit bigger, has a pool, but you know, sometimes the pool doesn't add as much value as you think.
Right. Well, in Massachusetts in particular, I think that's a little bit different than in different markets because we do have some people that are across the country on here. But yeah, I think getting their expectations into check is probably one of the most important things, especially when the neighbor's selling right there. So what do you think was the big determining factor for these sellers as to why they chose Cameron and why they chose you?
Well, you know, number one, I think because, you know, we were smiling, we were laughing, we were talking.
Yeah.
You know, she's telling me she's a diehard Patriots fan. You know, I mean, it was
I never met a Massachusetts person who was, right?
Yeah, so I'm just like totally, you know, feeding into it because I mean, I am naturally a big Patriots fan, and so we were talking about that, and we were just laughing and joking, and we were having a good time, and that's really, I think, what sealed the deal for us. You know, just laughing at the table, sitting down, talking about different things to do around the house to get it ready for, you know, a showing and, you know, a little bit of work that you got to put into it, and just being optimistic about, even though the neighbor's house is asking for this and you want more than that, you know, it is a good market. And if we fix it up and do the right things, you know, it's possible that we can hit your number, but, you know, there is no crystal ball. You don't know what you're going to get. But at the same time, you know, when we asked for the sale, they just said, sure. And
Awesome.
and we just signed it up, and congratulations to Nina. She was there helping me the whole time.
Right.
And it was really good. It was a good dynamic having the two of us there.
And that's a lot of your sales style to begin with, is a lot of rapport building, right? That's where you put a tremendous amount of your focus from what I've heard you talk about. I haven't been on an appointment with you, but you know. Yeah,
you got to make people, if you can, I think it's crucial. If you can make somebody laugh, you have a good shot. I think it separates you, and you can definitely stand out above the rest of the people, because everyone else, I feel, if someone has a different approach, you know, they may be more serious, you know, they may be more all business, you know, and that's not really my way of doing it. I don't come in just steamrolling. This is my company. This is my business, you know, take it or leave it. Like, I'm coming in easygoing, friendly. And I think that's my approach. I've had success with it. And I've always lived by the rule, you have to make a friend before you make a sale.
Yeah.
And that is, I absolutely live by it. And that's why I think I've been having a little success with my seller appointments.
Good. So tell us a little bit more about some of the other appointments you had this week. Any other interesting things take place?
Yeah, actually, I went to Woburn. And I met with this gentleman. That's my other half of listing that I think is going to be signed in a couple of days.
Right.
So this seller, he's a talker. I mean, I like it, but, you know, sometimes it's a little much. He kept me on the appointment for 2 hours.
Oh, boy.
I know. I'm trying to, like, find a segue to get in to kind of end the conversation. I'm sitting there. I'm trying to just find my way out, and I couldn't get out of the seller appointment. But I kept, and I wanted to get out because I kept asking for the close. I kept trying to close and close and close and reclose. And I'm trying to get the paperwork out. I'm trying to ask him to sign. I'm trying to do everything I possibly can. And he just wants to tell me about, like, growing up and, like, how hard he had it and how nice his house is and what work he's going to do, but he hasn't gotten to it yet. And it just wouldn't stop.
2 hours, you're like, you better sign.
Yeah, 2 hours. I'm like, I better freaking get this. And then in the end, he didn't want to sign because he had other people coming out that were going to give him offers, that wanted to talk to him. And actually, when I showed up to the house, he was on the phone. So I get out of my car, I walk up to him. He's on the phone. He has it on speaker. And I can hear, it sounded just like Barbara on the phone. So I'm thinking he's talking to, like, Barbara, because I literally just like her. And So I'm like, is that Barbara on the phone? Because I really thought it was. And he was like, oh, no, this is somebody else. And then that person on the phone heard me ask that. And she says, oh, is that so-and-so from Cameron Real Estate? And
that's funny.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, go listen to his spiel, and then I'll come in and get the listing afterwards, she said. Yeah, right on the phone to me. And so I was like, okay, all right. You know, I like a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's chirping in his ear, talking to him. People are telling her to listen to my spiel, and she'll come in and swoop the listing. So it was a hostile environment walking into this one. And then he wouldn't let me go. And then you know what? I couldn't close it on the face-to-face, but I went back out there yesterday morning at 8 a.m. because I talked to him last Friday, and he said, you know, I really need some help getting some stuff out of the house. It's trash day. I got to get some stuff out, you know. And I was like, well, I could help you. And I was like, we can talk about selling the house. You know what I mean? I was like, we can, you know, finish up what we were starting last week. I'll help you take some stuff out. And he was like, okay, that sounds good. So I'm thinking I have the listing all signed up, ready to go. I show up at this guy's house yesterday morning, 8 a.m., to help him take his trash out, right? Because, you know, he's an older guy, can't do it. And I get there, and there's, like, no trash to take out. He didn't get anything ready. And so we're just, like, talking more about the house because the guy loves to talk. And I finally start, you know, asking him about the house and the signing and the listing. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. We'll sign it. We'll do this. And next thing you know, he's like, well, you know, I'd really like to read this through. It's a long doc. He didn't expect it to be as long, you know, the lead, the agency, the exclusive, right? So he got overwhelmed and was like, yeah, maybe I should read through this. I might want a friend to read through it, but I'll sign it. You're my guy. I want you to do it. And so that was reassuring. So I ended up leaving the paperwork with him. And then as I'm about to leave, he's like, oh, yeah, well, we can take this out. And next thing you know, I'm hauling boxes out for him to the end of the driveway. But
commitment to your listings.
Yeah, so hopefully this guy, you know, for dragging me out, it took me an hour and a half to get to that house. I didn't realize it was going to take that long. But if I get the listing, it's worth it. It's a good house. Probably sell for $500 to $600.
Nice.
So that was an interesting one.
Very cool. I'm going to add in Mila to the call because she had some appointments this week. Oops, sorry. Hang on one second. Whoops, I'm sorry, Martania. I'm sorry. I think I got the wrong person in here. My apologies. Give me a second here. The thing moved on me. All right. Hopefully that's going to pop Mila in. All right. Hi, Mila. Make sure you unmute on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Got it. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, guys. So
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. If you're getting a lot of feedback, just turn your volume down. So
okay.
I haven't gotten any yet, but are you guys getting feedback? Is everything sounding okay to everybody else? Martina, I didn't mean to move you in. If you want to join in, you're welcome to. Poor baby. Hold on a second. Let me see. I'm not sure how to. I'll remove you, honey. There we go. Sorry about that. It seems like I think somebody popped on as I was clicking on Mila, and it ended up pulling. It moved her up in the list. All right, so welcome on board. This is Mila Pavo. She's one of our agents that are on board with us. And oops, hold on a minute here. Change role to attendee. There we go. That'll solve that problem. So Mila is also an agent with us. She's out in the Western Mass area, and she's been working really hard to take leads and get them processed through. She's been doing a tremendous amount of mojo dialing. So Mila, can you tell us a little bit about this appointment that you went on this week and your acquisition?
Yes, it's actually, I went to that appointment several weeks ago, and it was a vacant house. Mm-hmm. They really, and it needed some work. They put it as feasible on Zillow for $349,000, mm-hmm. But they had some people coming to the open house, but they didn't have any offers, and the seller was represented by her relative because seller was actually in the nursing home.
Okay.
She showed me the house. It looked pretty neat, but she said that they really want to get like 349 and they're not going to go down. And I told her about the offer. Our offer was 269 and they had a broken septic. So it means minus $20,000. It's actually 249. So she said that they not going to accept that offer and unless we will increase it. So I talked to Tom. I texted to Tom. He said, no, we're not going to do anything because it's a busy street and we will not increase our offer. So I got back to her. She said, okay, we will take 269 with septic. And I went back with broken septic. So that means that not 249, but 269.
Right.
And, Tom said that they're not going to accept it again. 249 is the best offer. So we ended up acquiring that property. And even though they wanted 349 at the beginning, and it's actually seemed pretty reasonable price to me because I know that market, and some flippers would be happy to flip that house because it's really nice but because they don't know how to sell and they don't know how to make right pictures and to present house right, they ended up taking our offer. So it was.
So Mila, what do you think the time frame was from the time that you first went out to the property, and then how many times did you have to go back for and renegotiate this? 3 or 4 times?
Yes, I would say 2 times.
2 times, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And initially, it didn't seem like it was going to be something that was going to be acquisition at all.
Yes, it's
property, right?
Right. Because I felt like they really have to have a lot of offers, and somebody has to give them more than OCD.
And do you know how long that property was on the market for before the OCD offer was taken?
Just 1 week.
1 week, okay.
Yes.
And what do you think the seller's motivating factors were? We talk about this a lot, but you know, and a lot of these people that we have on this call today are out-of-state people. So they're doing, the majority of what they're trying to accomplish is acquisition. So this is a really good example for us. But I think one of the things that happens is we don't always give it enough time for it to convert over to an acquisition. So what do you think the motivating factors were that why the seller chose to go acquisition versus listing and continuing that route?
Well, seller was in their nursing home, and he has to sell this house. And a relative who lives in Berkshire is at 2.5 hours from Acton.
Right.
He didn't want to go back and forth over there to take care about the sale. So they just really had to sell it quickly and with less inconveniences for the people who was helping to the seller.
Right.
It was the motivating factor. They had to sell. House was in bad shape, so they had no other choice than sell it to us quickly for cash.
Well, that's really good point, because what kind of condition was the property in? Was it in decent condition, or?
It needed updates. It does need updates. It needs OCD's help to make it shine.
Yeah, but it wasn't in a major disrepair either, right?
No, not a major disrepair. It was clean house. They took everything out. It needs a lot of cosmetic inside and out, but it's not falling apart or anything. Right.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people, when they go on seller appointments looking for acquisition, they believe that I have to find a house that's in bad condition. And if it's in list condition, which it sounds like it probably was, they tend to back off of it or go towards the listing end of it, when just a little bit more time and understanding the seller's motivation might make a big difference. In this case, the hassle was definitely worth it for them, right?
Right, right.
So that was their big motivating factor, and it had nothing to do with the quality of it. What challenges did you run into?
What, excuse me?
Sorry, what challenges did you run into on these appointments?
Challenge was like I felt they can sell it themselves. They put it on did feasible, and I thought like they definitely doing good job presenting house inside. It was clean and nice, and just my thoughts were my challenge, basically.
Yeah. That's a good spot. We all get stuck in that, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we have to be careful not to get in the way of the deal.
Yes, just keep moving forward.
Right.
Getting what you want.
So of our attendees here, does anybody have any questions or concerns or things that you're coming across that you'd like Mila or Anthony to talk about or give you some pointers on? Anybody been on appointments and been struggling to get the close? I think it's interesting, or the two common threads I'm hearing from you guys, which is great, is that you not only went for the close, which doesn't sound like much because that's what we're supposed to do, but it's not always easy to go for the close, but you kept going back for the close. You know?
Yeah, always got to reclose.
Right.
Always be closing. ABC.
Always be closing.
Right.
For sure. Let's see. No questions. Oh, somebody's raising a hand. How do I do this? Hang on, guys. Bear with me while I figure those. Wait. Let's see. If you're raising your hand, how does that work? Maybe I promote to a talent. Dave, you want to get on the call? I don't know what that means. When somebody raises their hand, does that mean they want to get into a panelist? Is it?
Yeah, I would just put them to panelist.
Dave, I hope you're clothed. And Hazel's popping in there too. Hazel wrote on what went to an appointment yesterday. Oh, good for you, Hazel. How did that go? We'll have to, let's pop her in here too. And Alex, what are some of the closing questions that Tony uses? So do you do trial closes, Tony?
Well, I'm telling you, I just play. It's a natural feel. Like you just feel when you need to go for the close. It's all feeling, and I usually ask for it. It's a very simple close. I'll just ask different things, like depending on the situation, whether is it okay to get started? Do you want to wrap this up today? It depends on the feeling for it. Sometimes I don't even go for the close. Like actually, and it does not often. I usually go for the close every single time, but I actually had an appointment this week where I didn't even go for it at all because he had another appointment coming in and he was ready. He had like 3 other developers coming in, real estate agents coming in. They were all going to give him offers. He said he wanted to wait for other offers. So I didn't even give him our offer. I wanted to be the last person in the rotation. So that on that situation, I didn't even go for the close. I didn't even try because I knew he wasn't going to make a decision that day. And I didn't want to reveal our cards before everyone else came in because then he would just use our cards against us. And we'd have probably 0 shot at that point. So I wanted to come over the top and be one of the last people in to give my opinion. So I'm still working on that one. But, other than that, you're just going to go for the close. I mean, there's no real questions you ask them besides, are you ready to wrap this up? Would you like to get started today? When you're talking about your pre-marketing and you're talking about how you can get it done, and it takes a couple of weeks to do that before you actually list it. If you want to do it coming soon, I can start the pre-marketing for the next couple of weeks while you get the house ready in show condition, and just different things. You got to feel them out. If they're ready to sell, you just ask for it. That's my best close. I just ask for the sale.
Right. David and Hazel, welcome. If you guys want to, Hazel unmuted. David, you're muted on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. There's a little, there you go.
Okay, I got it.
There you go. So, David, you went on an appointment this past week, right?
We went on one, but the person wasn't there, so we have to reschedule. I don't know how often that happens, but that's a disappointment, of course. I have a question, though. One of the things that I find very awkward is when I go into an appointment, I have the offer from OCD, which is actually, quite low and understandably quite low. And so you're usually going to start off being miles apart from what the seller may actually be looking for. So I'd be curious to hear what Anthony and is it Mila? Or if you've had success, how do you start the conversation and where do you go first?
Okay, so Amelia, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, it just depends. When I come to the appointment, it's depends from different sellers. First of all, I'm trying to, when I look at the house and at the house condition, I feel like I more understand why they're selling. Like I don't know. It's just from looking at the house, it gives me a clue. And then I started that conversation why they selling. Started to find out about their situation and. Like just trying to go in some like personal things, like depends, like dogs, like kids, pictures, whatever, trying to incorporate all that in the conversation. How long they've been in the house, what they done to the house, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very important to, when you go to a seller appointment, you have to find out the why. You need to know why they are selling that house. If you leave that appointment and you don't know why they're really selling the house, then you didn't do your job. You need to find out the motivation, the exact reason, why they are selling that house. Because sometimes they're hiding it, and sometimes it's not on the surface. It's not on the phone call you had to go out with them. Sometimes it's not the good market. Sometimes there's underlying reasons and motivations, and you have to find out the whys and the motivations of why they're selling. If you don't do that, then you're really not doing yourself any service, and you're out there wasting your time because somebody else is going to find out that reason. And so, from building rapport, making them laugh if you can, just getting into a conversation with them and really helping them open up is going to help them understand their reasons for wanting to sell. And once you find out their reasons for selling, then that's gonna give you details into, whether or not they're more towards, a listing side of things, or if it's an acquisition. Because, if you find out that they're behind on their mortgage, or they can't afford it, or they have to sell because someone's in a nursing home, now you want to explain the benefits of, selling to them. You want to explain to them, it's an easy transaction. It's a very attractive transaction. You can pick when you want to close. It's a cash deal. You don't have to move anything out. If you feel like those are the reasons why, always explain the benefits of selling to an investor. And when you explain the benefits of selling to an investor, you're going to get a feeling, you're going to get a look. That conversation goes somewhere. And when that conversation goes down a path where the money isn't good, you can feel that the investor side of it isn't good, you're going to switch gears and you transition into why listing is going to be good. And the more money, it's a little more work, but it's more money. And so you just have to make each path seem attractive. But explaining the benefits of why to sell to an investor and explaining the benefits of listing the appointment are crucial once you find out the why and the motivation behind something.
Okay, I got a question as a follow-up on that, Anthony. You're asking a lot of questions about the motivation of the seller and all of that. So, where do you do the agency disclosure right from the beginning, and which side do you do it on? As a buyer for OCD or as seller's agent?
Well, it's always a seller agent. It's always a seller agency for me. I just it's just 'cause you have to do one thing, so you always want to pick the seller agency. It's not a contract, so if you pick buyer or seller, I mean they're going to be understanding if you have to later. But I don't think it really matters in the very beginning if you choose buyer or seller, because to be honest with you, you're both. You can be the buyer agent, but you can be the seller. But I would check seller, I think, right, Carrie?
So, no. Let me pop in here real quick. Hazel, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, honey. Can you mute temporarily? There's a little bit of background noise, so it keeps going back and forth. And then I'm going to pop on to you in just a minute. But, okay. So when here in Massachusetts, agency is a big to-do. For those of you who are out of state, it's something that's really important. And David, I think you're in New Hampshire too, right? Yeah, so it's really
Yes.
important that you guys here in New Hampshire and Massachusetts understand your agency. And if you don't, please make sure you get with Tricia McCarthy and let's make sure we get that clarified. When you're walking into a Massachusetts or a New Hampshire appointment, now remember, New Hampshire, you actually have to send over the agency agreement before at the top, the first conversation, even on the phone, about a specific property. So if you're going on a seller appointment, you want to have that discussion and send over that agency agreement. David, if you're in New Hampshire and doing a New Hampshire transaction, you want to do that right up front. And if you're presenting an OCD offer when you're walking in the door, you're actually a buyer's agent for OCD. You need to make sure you clarify that right up front, and then you can transition. If the OCD offer is not going to be for them, then you have that discussion and tell them that you're working into a facilitator until you're under agreement with them. So again, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do want to make sure that you guys are clear on that, because I don't remember exactly how much the fines are, but I think it's pretty significant if I'm not mistaken. So just make sure, if you don't understand that fully, get with Tricia. I know Monday mornings she'll do in-office training on that from 10 to 11 with the newer agents. So if you have questions, you can just pop in on that for sure. And Hazel, if you don't mind popping back on there, tell us a little bit about, you went on a seller appointment. Did you get a deal this week?
Well, maybe.
Maybe. And guys, Hazel's one of our newer investors, and she's in Texas. So welcome from Texas.
Thank you. And my daughter lives in Woburn, by the way. I was just up there last week.
Yep.
Yeah, 2 grandkids, so
Nice.
I'm always up there.
Nice.
So yes, I made the appointment to go see the seller, and of course it was a rental property. He has a little bit of health issues, so he's thinking about liquidating this property first. So he's asking $30,000 for it. So I'm kind of, because I'm new, a little overwhelmed and a little nervous about it. I did some comps, took lots of pictures. So in the neighborhood that the house is in, I mean, it's a weird street because it's not a cookie cutter. It's pretty diverse. 3 bedrooms. The neighbor might have a 3-bedroom. The house across might be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. His is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and then so it varies. It's unlike some of the properties here where they're pretty much a cookie cutter setup. It's an older. The house was in the 40s, so I guess zoning was a little different back then.
That's funny because that's not old for us here. That's a new house here.
Yeah,
Massachusetts, I was about to tell everybody, in Texas, construction's a little bit newer for you guys. So you do have those subdivisions that are one after another. Now, is there any way to convert that over to the standard 322, or is that going to be too much to get through?
It'd be too much. It's definitely a 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Gotcha.
And it needs a lot of work. He just put a new roof on. A lot of cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of stuck. I did my numbers. I don't think it's a unfair number that he's asking. I think it's a good price that he's asking.
Yeah.
He's pretty motivated. He's got a little bit of health issues. So it's a corner lot house as well. So the lot's a little bigger than some of the houses, his next door neighbor's house.
So Hazel, are you licensed? Remind me again, I apologize. Are you licensed yet? Okay.
No.
So Hazel's an investor, straight up investor. So she's going into these appointments representing herself. And again, I just want to kind of impress upon what you're looking at and what we've heard from her, as well as Mila and Tony, is that it's really about the seller's motivation. And it sounds like in that case, Hazel, he's looking to save himself the hassle, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's important that we look at that. Now, do you have a local agent that you can work with, Hazel, that maybe can give you some good comps on the retail end of it and tell you what the average days on market is for that product?
Yes, I do have a realtor that I can call and get some comps. So
I just would be curious in a non-conforming property like that. I would be curious as to what the average days on market would be for the 2-1 product rather than the 3-2-2 standard that's in the area. That
Right.
should make a huge difference as to whether or not this is going to be a good acquisition for you, because you want to make sure you're picking something up that you can unload quickly. Now, are you planning on wholesaling this property if you pick it up, or are you planning on flipping?
well, I was thinking about holding, okay,
Oh,
because
okay.
we have a really good relationship with a couple of banks here.
Uh-huh.
So I'm considering approaching the bank this morning, and based on what I have, the comps, it's anywhere from after repair value, it's 65 to 75
Right.
in that neighborhood.
Gotcha.
So if I were to put in 15,000, then I would refinance it at 80% of after the repair value, and
Right.
then just holding on to it. That's
And-
kind of what I was thinking.
And is it going to cash flow for you as a rental, or?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
In this market, the rental is through the roof. I mean, it is.
Right.
It's awesome here for rental.
So what's your next step on that? Just so we're keeping focused on the seller appointments. What's your next step on that? Where are you planning on going with that? And when do you plan to get back out there to see if you can get them to sign?
I am gonna make an appointment after this call and with my bank, just to give her an idea what we want to do,
Mhm.
and decide if that's the route. And I told him I'd get back with him this afternoon. He does have a doctor's appointment at 2 or 3 o'clock. So I told him I'd try to get back with him by noon, but I don't know if I'll be able to make it by noon.
Right. So he's pretty gung-ho. You think he's going to accept the offer?
Yeah. He's
Awesome.
asking for 30.
Awesome. Good deal.
So
when you go out on appointments, Tony and Mila, and let's say they're not ready yet, like in the situation that Hazel's facing, do you go ahead and reschedule the next appointment right there when you're on site?
Yeah, I always try. If they're not ready. Like for instance, I was in Woburn and I couldn't get them to sign, couldn't close them. But before I left, I knew there was, I was going to come out or at least talk to him on a certain day in a certain time area where, so I made sure that I was going to communicate with him before I left.
Right.
And it ended up being a phone call, and then it ended up me coming out yesterday morning. But yeah, always, if you can't close it on the first deal, yeah, schedule your next face-to-face, a phone call or appointment if you can.
And why do you do that?
You got to stay in front of them. You have to. If you don't stay in front of them, somebody else is going to walk in the door and scoop it from you. You can't sleep on it, especially when a guy's asking $30,000. It's a fair price. If anybody gets wind of that, it's going to be gone. So definitely stay in front of them. Go to the bank, get what you got to get done. But I would get out there. Try to talk to him again. Maybe tomorrow, this afternoon, after you go to the bank. But as soon as you have definitive information as to whether you're going to go for it or not at that price, get in there with him. You know what I mean, and see if you can sign that as soon as possible, because you don't want someone stealing that from you.
yeah,
And have you ever had the experience, I'm sorry, Hazel, have you ever had the experience where you've gone on the appointment, you left, you didn't rebook that appointment, and they disappeared on you?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, or Mila, because you guys have both been on several appointments.
I've always been pretty diligent with my follow-up, but I did have an instance where I went to Dorchester, walked in, had a good appointment. He said he wanted me to help him sell the house. And then I was trying to get the paperwork he didn't close that day. I wanted to come out later that week, and between now and then, I was trying to get him the paperwork to sign. It turns out, I didn't know this, but it turns out that the reason he couldn't sign the paperwork and get it back was because he didn't have a printer and he didn't want to tell me. Yeah, so I'm like, I'm thinking he just printed out the paperwork. He was embarrassed that he didn't have a printer and couldn't print it.
Oh.
So another agent had come in between the time and had him sign on the spot. And then afterwards, I'm like, you told me I was your guy. He's like, yeah, but I never printed or print out the paperwork. I just wanted to get it over with.
No.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you got to be kidding. If you told me, I would have just, brought it down, But yeah, I lost it because I didn't get back out there fast enough.
So what'd you learn from that?
Oh my God. One time, never again. Never again. That was it.
That hurts.
Yeah, it did. It really hurt. Stung hard. I was angry, but
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, but never again. It won't happen.
What about you, Mila? What kind of experiences have you had in terms of going on appointments? Do you rebook at the end of that appointment? And if not, have you had them ghost out on you?
No, I don't. I don't rebook right away. I see it depends. Most of the time, like I have to get another number from the Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's going to go up,
Right.
I contact them afterwards and we try to negotiate. If we were not able to negotiate the right price, what can I do about it? But if it's try to see if it's something else, if it's not only the price. If it's not only the price and if it's a time frame, I'm definitely following up with everyone.
Good. Now, John has a question here. Any tips on opening up a seller who isn't very talkative and a little defensive? Specifically, someone who has met a number of other agents, investors, and is kind of going through the motions with you for like the 10th time, is treating you like just the next one to come by to make an offer. I'm thinking this is a high D, low I. What do you think, guys?
Oh yeah, these are my favorite guys.
Mine too.
I love these people. Yeah, I'm telling you, I love the challenges. I love it when people don't want to pay commissions. They want to sit there and not talk and treat you like another run-of-the-mill guy. I like it. I feel like talking to people who are challenging sharpens my skills.
So what do you do to overcome them a little bit?
So when somebody's sitting there and just treating you like you're the 10th guy in there, I always like to dig into what they did for a living, because people tend to talk about that. They like to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always ask what you did for a living. I'll ask some questions, get interested into it right away, even though I may have no idea, what they did for a living. But most times I do have an idea or can understand enough to ask some questions and, take some ideas. Maybe there's some pictures hanging on the wall. Maybe they went somewhere. Oh, where'd you go here? Where'd you go there on the tour? But if someone's really rigid, try to get into where they worked and ask some questions. They'll open up, and it's just a segue to get them talking. But yeah, you want to notice your surroundings. Maybe they have a cool artifact on the wall. Maybe they're hanging a picture. Maybe they went on vacation. Maybe, where do they work? Anything small, and the little tips and tricks around the house that you can see and catch on to. I mean, just keep asking questions. I mean, just seem personable and interested, and talking about what they did for a living or what they do for a living is usually works for me to get into a conversation.
So a lot of rapport building. What about you, Mila? How do you overcome that tough personality?
Well, honestly, I was lucky not to meet with anyone like that. But I'm trying also like to get more into personal stuff, like find out why they're selling and what they're going to do if they sell, where they're going to move, what if they have a plan, talk a little bit about that and maybe give them some recommendations, just trying to be myself and open, personal, and it should work.
So David, you're newer with us. Thank you, Mila. Sorry. David, you're newer with us, but you've been in real estate for quite a while. Do you have any tidbits on when you come across those tough personalities?
Well, I do one of two things. I either do what Anthony and what Mila were talking about, just try to get in a conversation and build a rapport. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that works and you see how that goes. Mm-hmm. But also there are times when I just say, I don't think I want this guy for a client. And I just say, I got plenty of other places to go, and thank you very much and best of luck to you. Yeah. And surprisingly, on occasion, very few occasions, but there have been occasions where I do that and they say, wait, don't go, and then they open up, which is really kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't have to work with everybody that you meet with.
Right, and that's, that is from an agent perspective, so I do want to make sure that the people that are on the call, hi Cindy, I just realized she's on with us too, that are, a lot of people on the call that are investors. So those, that idea of, I don't want to work with that person is kind of something that's a listing situation because you're committed to that contract for that time frame. So yeah, choosing who you're going to work with is really important. From an investment standpoint, you don't care. You want to get in, get that deal, get that property acquired, and get on your way with things. Another way to overcome that personality type, by the way, is matching and mirroring. So I know we've talked about this a lot in our local classes, but when you have a personality that you don't necessarily gel with, maybe you're a very high energy person, the person's a low energy person or whatever, if you can match and mirror their body language and get good at that, then that will definitely help you to gain that rapport that you're trying to build. And those, especially if you have somebody that's not a very interactive personality, a low I, that type of person is difficult to connect with because it's not in their nature to want to connect with other human beings. It's not that they're antisocial, it's just that they don't see the value in it. It's not something that has worked well for them in the past, so they don't adopt that into their regular everyday stuff. Let's see, Alex asks, does Tony qualify much over the phone prior to the appointment?
I don't qualify as much as the appointment, but yeah, I mean, when I'm mojoing, if I get people on the phone, I'm trying to build rapport. I'm trying to ask questions. I don't like to go into the details of my pitch over the phone for my seller appointment, but, definitely asking, if once you get them on the phone, how long they've been thinking about selling. See, I mean, it's always nice to try to see if you can get that motivation or maybe figure out the why while you're on the phone. My experience, I've never really been that good at getting the motivations and the whys. I mean, the surface motivations, but when you really get to the appointment and you're sitting down with them at a table, that's where you really can get it out of them. But yeah, qualifying on the phone is always nice because, when I was mojoing in the beginning and I wasn't qualifying a lot, I'd be excited. They said, yeah, come on out, come take a look at the house. And I get out there and they're like, they don't even really want to sell. They were just kind of spinning my wheels. And so, yes, definitely qualify a little bit more. See if there's a motivation there, ask them how long they've owned the house, why they want to sell, try to build a little rapport to get some more information out of them. Yeah, you definitely want when you get off the phone on Mojo, when you're talking to a seller, you want to have a feeling like it's going to be a good appointment. You want to feel like you did find some good information about the appointment before you go. Because if you just call them up and say, hey, can I bring you an offer? Okay, sure, bye. And then it's like, you get out there and you really don't know much about what's going on and you're in the dark and you're figuring everything out on the fly. So definitely qualify your people on the phone as much as you can without pressing them, to get the appointment.
Right. And then let's see here. It says there's a lot of background noise. Sorry about that, Donna. It sounded like it was loud for a minute, but it seems like it's quieted back down again. Anybody else getting lots of background noise?
No.
Okay, good. John asks, when converting from cash offer to listing option, are you going through agent presentation, like here's our marketing plan, who we are, et cetera, or do you keep it more casual? Ooh, this is a good one. Well,
when I go in and I explain the benefits of selling to an investor, and I always say you're going to get a look. You're going to get, because Tom will give me a number, say it's 300. I'll always give a range. So I'll always say, investor offers are going to be, in this area, and you'll see the look on their face change, and it's either going to be like, definitely not, or they're going to be, acceptive to it. And so based on that conversation, if it looks like they don't want the investor offer, or they say, oh no, that's too low, or they give you a look like, I'm not really feeling that, then you segue right into, I also can generate offers from the market. And so then you segue right in. And so when I'm generating offers from the market, these numbers are going to be more in this range. Does that range sound better to you? and you start qualifying, start getting them to say yes. And then once you start talking about how you can generate offers from the market and what they would look like, you go into how we market, what we do, the coming soons, pre-marketing, and you start building it up and making it sound attractive. And then eventually next thing you know, you're into a full-blown listing pitch trying to get them to sign on. But yeah, you got to be careful with the segue in. You don't want to just come out there and say, I'm going to offer you money for your house. Go out there, give them the offer number, and then say, oh, no, wait, I can also list it. You got to be careful. So just be casual and vague, if you can, about the number, just because if you just lay your cards out and then you try to backtrack, it's not going to be as smooth for you.
Right. Mila, what about you? What do you do?
Well, just this morning I had an appointment at the house that's listed at 1.89, and I knew when I was going there that it's not going to be an acquisition, so I prepared my listing presentation. I did comps and everything, and when I looked at the house, I said, this is what I expected to see. Like, this is a very nice house, and this is not going to work out for investor because there is not much room for improvement, and their offer is 1.1, and this is definitely not what you're going to accept. And when I was entering the house, I said that I'm a real estate agent and I'm like a buyer's agent of Ocean City Development. So they knew that I am a real estate agent. And then I started to talk why their house didn't sell because it just expired. And I tried to point at some things and discuss with them. And then we talked about comps and my marketing and all that.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we talk about here, and when I do the coaching one-on-one, it's important to identify, and I think both Mila and Tony, most of the time when you go into an appointment when you're preparing for your appointments, are you finding that most of the time whether it's going to be an acquisition or a listing before you get there?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Before I get there, I wouldn't say I know before I get into the house. I mean, if it was a $1.8 million home and the offer's $1 million, I mean, that's kind of, a gimme. But, when you're talking about, $400,000, $600,000 homes, and there's a lot that you need to look at before you can assess whether it's an acquisition or not. And that really depends a lot on, the motivation. House condition house condition can determine an acquisition, but it doesn't necessarily determine it in a lot. It's the people. It's the people. You have to talk to them. You have to figure out why they want to sell. I mean, if they can't sell to an investor because they owe too much money, I mean, it's never going to be an acquisition.
Right.
But unless you found out that they owe that money, you're dead in the water. So you got to find out the info and qualify your sellers enough to where you can make that judgment call and pitch what you need to.
Right. And I think, keep in mind that we're not in the market right now for it, but if they're upside down, there are short sale opportunities if they can't afford to keep their mortgage. And those are good acquisitions. As a matter of fact, usually you get the property in much better condition than you would if it was like an REO or somebody who's completely walked away from the property because they're usually living in it and maintaining it. But this isn't really the market currently for that in most markets across the U.S., although I think that we're slowly going back into that. So I think identifying really what kind of seller it is, like we've talked about before, their motivation is probably the most important thing before you discover or decide to which approach you're going to take. When you walk into them, if my biggest fear, I think, in the situation would be walking in there and presenting the cash offer, which is low, and then saying, oh, wait a minute, we can go ahead and list your property, and then feeling like, you know what, you just tried to steal my property from me. Why would I want to list with you? And that's a pretty tough thing to overcome because then you're running yourself over with a Mack truck and trying to make yourself look pristine. So it's, you really want to be careful when you're walking in and trying to figure out which product or service is going to really work better for the customer. You don't want anybody walking away feeling like we robbed them of their property. Let's see what other questions we have on here. Hazel asked, is the Mojo call at 10 on Eastern on Monday? Yes, I believe so. Let me just double check. It was just yesterday. So I should know this. I was on it, yes. From 10 to 11 Eastern time, we talk about the Mojo dialer and issues that people may have on that. So you guys are welcome to join in. How many appointments does it take Tony to get one contract?
Sometimes one, sometimes, it can take, maybe 3 at most, I think. I think most of my contracts have been on the first or second appointment. I think, maybe one or two have been after that, but 1 or 2 contacts because, I'm relaying all the benefits. I mean, I've laid all my cards out by the second appointment, and, it's just, I'm going for the close the whole time, and, it's just, to go on a third appointment, I mean, a third face-to-face is rare for me. I would actually follow up, a little bit more. So sometimes, for me, following up can take a phone call once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. You make a phone call to stay in front of someone. So that can be considered contact. So then if you're talking about follow-up phone calls, some of them take, 10, you know what I mean? I mean, you never really do it, but face-to-face appointments, typically 1 or 2 if they're ready. But if they're not ready, because some people just aren't ready, and no matter how good you are, they can't sell right now.
Right.
And so those people that I follow up with over the course of, 2 months, 3 months, you just got to be diligent about it, because in the end, that person from 4 months ago will be ready now. And on top of that, you are getting your 1 or 2 a month on your face-to-faces that you're closing. So then it's just bonus because you've been working with that. You've been calling that person, twice a month for 4 months. It sounds like a lot, but in the end, it's like 20 minutes of phone calls. So it's definitely worth it. So yeah, it can range. There's really no number for it. But face-to-face appointments, 1 or 2, with follow-up phone calls, if they're not ready, there is no number. It can take as long as it does take.
Right. I think that's important for everybody to hear, including the people out of state, because it can be frustrating. And if you're newer to sales, you may not be as experienced in knowing how much follow-up is required. I think follow-up is the key there. There's a lot of deals that get lost because you didn't catch it the first time, and then the follow-up falls back. And we see it all the time. Unfortunately, we've had agents, and we still do that, feel like it's not happening, and they give up on the deal, and then we send someone else out there and they close it down. And sometimes that has to do with personality styles, and maybe somebody clicked better with this person than the other person. So that's always part of it too. But I would say a lot of it is just giving up too soon. What is the longest that Mila, you or Tony have nurtured somebody before getting either the listing or the acquisition?
Well, for me, it was a year. 1 year I went to acquisition appointment, and then these people were not ready to sell.
Yeah.
And now I have a listing.
Good.
Yeah,
So
6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months is, I've nurtured someone for that long, and eventually got the listing, and
Right.
found out that she actually had like 2 properties, and it just takes time. You really have to do the follow-up with anyone that you feel would be ready to sell in the next 3 months. It's definitely worth it to keep them, put them in your follow-up, make your tasks, call them, say hi. Because I got to the point where I was following up with these people, and eventually the phone calls just were, hey, how are you? What's going on? You know what I mean? And they were more of like a friendly phone conversation. And then at the very end of the conversation, we'd be like, all right, well, I know, you're not ready now. All right, I'll call back in a few weeks. And then eventually they just were anticipating my phone call. And when it was time, I got the listing.
Right. Good deal. So we have to wrap up this call. I really appreciate everybody's time today. Hazel, you asked about where to find the offer contracts for our out-of-state people. Go into the dashboard, the ClickFunnels dashboard, and let's see here. We have the contracts under Section 3. Now, keep in mind, please, that these are Massachusetts contracts that we had our attorneys draw up for us. So you want to take these contracts to your local attorneys and get them something similar drawn up, but that's going to be appropriate for your state. So if you're out of state, you know, please make sure that you're not using our contracts because it may not be appropriate for you and it may not be able to hold up in court. And as for our local people, all your contracts are in dot loop, of course. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate all the participation. Hazel, David, you weren't expected on this call today, so I appreciate you joining in. Mila, thanks for accepting our invitation last minute to come on and share your experience on your acquisition. And as usual, Tony, you're a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate all your input and taking the time to be with us today. So
thank you.
Everyone have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Anybody wants any additional training on the Mojo stuff, like I just put the link in the comments, so you guys are welcome to join in, and Dawn Little and I will be doing that on Monday morning. So, all right, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.